unless you want to share. Okay. Great. Okay, everybody, can you go on mute and keep your videos on?
Yeah, why does not join the call?
Okay, Vivek, welcome. Vivek is our co-faculty here.
Yeah, please.
Thanks, Manoj.
Yeah. And we have our.
Yeah, I've already.
1 second, I have to mute somebody. Hey, Vivek, can you mute everybody?
Raju 412.
Okay, great. And we are privileged to have our mentor and well-wisher, Sri Raju Bhaduria here. So, sir, welcome. It's our pleasure, privilege to have you in this conversation. You want to say hi, Raju? You're on mute. Yeah. Okay. You're on mute. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Great. So, everybody, thank you very much for joining in. This is Saturday, 4 p.m. India time, 4:08 now. Thank you very much for joining in. Please get your videos on, and we're going to have an interactive conversation here. My name is Manoj Onkar, and I have my colleague Vivek Chopra here with us, and we're going to have this conversation on ego to eco. Okay, so we are also going to record this conversation.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. So Jabba, welcome. Anwar and Ankit, welcome. Everybody else, request you to get your videos on and get into interaction here. Thank you very much. And let's start. So we want to start with this whole conversation of ego to eco. And we are saying this is the imperative shift for all leaders. What I mean by imperative is, it's like no other option. If you want to have a workable planet, if you want to have a workable organization, a humane organization, if you want to call it, we are going to have to make this shift. But not only we'll have to make this shift from the perspective of the quality of organization, but we are also going to need to make this shift from being eligible to play in the market. It's possible that as the human awareness increases, companies and leaders who don't make this shift are going to find themselves on the wrong side of the game. So it's an important conversation that we intend to spread all over the world. This is built on a theory U by Dr. Otto Scharmer of MIT. And they have been doing work on this for the last 3 decades. We have been working on it for the last 7 years, and we have been taking this conversation to organizations, schools, education institutions, hospitals, and now we're also trying to take it to government. And of course, through MIT and through Presencing Institute, Otto Scharmer has been taking this conversation all over the world. The top companies in the world, from Google and Alibaba and McKinsey and the biggest bank in India, in the world, to United Nations, more than 1,000 UN leaders are being trained in this recently, along with some IS officers and others. And so this is the conversation going on, and we call it as the leadership and change management that the world needs. Okay, so that's a little bit of background, and as we go ahead, we'll go deeper into this. For the friends who joined in right now, my name is Manoj Onkar, and my colleague Vivek Chopra. We are facilitating this conversation here for the next 90 minutes, 80 minutes. And we would request you to engage with us fully. And also, unless you have a real challenge with either your health or internet, we request you to keep your videos on and engage with us. Before we go ahead, let me start with a question. What's your objective? And when I say your objective, either you could say it for yourself as a human being, or if you're part of an organization, I would recommend you share what is your organization's objective. Okay, so everybody, this is an opportunity for you to unmute and speak. And if you want to share on the chat, that's also fine. What's your objective? What's your organization's objective? Whichever way you prefer to share. So who would like to share? Somebody will have to break the ice. You're on mute, DSM. Thank you. Can you unmute yourself, please? Okay. I don't know what is the challenge there. DSM, are you able to unmute?
Hello.
Yeah, Navneet, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
My name is Navreet Singh. Currently, I am pursuing my MBA from Chandigarh Group of Colleges.
Right.
I want to become a financial analyst when I complete my MBA, and I would like some guidance on what path should I follow.
Okay, got that. Great. Thank you very much for coming here, Navreet, and being in this conversation.
Thank you
We don't expect
You
to
too.
tell you the path to follow, but we expect you to discover some new paths to follow as we go ahead in this conversation. Thank you very much for
Yes,
joining.
totally.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Rajiv sir, you want to do the honors? Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's very nice, Manoj, and it's really a context which has to deliver the objective today, and all across, as Manoj has put in fact, just not across organizations, but for people's life in general, in particular, individually, and even at the highest levels of societal and organizational constructs. The objective today, which is basically common to all of us, is to actually address the cause of the greenhouse concentration of gases, which is actually causing climate change. And the whole redefinition of the objective of growth, of development in a direction that we change from the extractive and the exploitative mode which we have followed so far. This whole neoliberal capitalist economy today, in fact, more so, using more and more of technology, got the capacity to extract more and more and exploit more and more of natural resources. And to the extent that we have now been brought to the brink of almost...
Something went wrong with his internet. He was addressing some very important points. We hope that you can come and join in fast. In the meanwhile, anybody else, if you want to unmute and share, what are your objectives? Share in 1 or 2 lines.
This is this side Ankit. My basic I'm in a training and development. My basic objective is become a it's called the instructional designer. Not instructor, it's called the organization. We can talk about the senior instructional designer in the good company.
Right.
As well as I'm following the career path for this. So I'm start reading different platform. I already assign or myself to develop the career. It's called the course design for the my company as well as for others also.
Right. Great. Thank you very much, Ankit. Thanks for sharing. Okay, welcome Vivek, and somebody has joined in with OnePlus. If you can put your name on the screen and preferably unmute and sorry, put your video on, that would be great. Ravi Kumar, can you get your video on? Thank you, welcome. Okay, so as we look at our objectives, whether it's our personal objectives or whether it's our organizational objectives, what I would like us to see is what's happening in the world. Navrit, you got to go on mute. Okay, and unmute when you need to speak, otherwise everyone stays on mute. And we would love to hear from you. Okay, so definitely you should unmute and speak. That's what we would intend.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Navrit.
Sir, the resources of Earth are used indiscriminately, and the capitalist society has depleted a lot of resources, which has led to the many harmful effects like less resources, inequality in people, as well as the concentration of the resources in hands of few people. This has led to harmful effects like pollution, climate change, global warming, and this is leading to an unsustainable path to development. So we need to take part such in the development of the world so that it is equal for everyone, equal opportunity, and it is sustainable, so that we do not run out of the resources and we have enough resources to provide to the future generations.
Brilliant, brilliant, Navrit. So I think that also answers to you what kind of leader you can become, right? Or wherever you go, what kind of context you can operate from, right? So very well said, very well said, Navrit. Thank you very much. You are hitting the nail on the head. So that's what we want to share right now, is if you look at all the challenges on the planet right now, we can classify them. And as Otto Scharmer from MIT classifies them, I'm going to use some slides to help us look into the conversation. Okay, and so are you able to see the slide? Somebody, let me know if you're able to see the slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so as Otto Scharmer says, you can look at all the challenges and from these three divides. The ecological divide, shown here as eco divide, right? And then the social divide and the spiritual divide. So these three divides kind of capture the current scenario, as Rajiv Bhaduria was pointing out and Navrit was pointing out. So what is this?
I think, Manoj, I'm back. Just a minute, if you wouldn't mind.
Please go ahead. No, please go ahead.
See, so what I was trying to tell, in fact, is that the whole the economic system, basically, and the growth and what we call development is really not development, because it's just mere mechanical growth in a direction that has brought us to the brink of the sixth extinction event. Yes. That means there is 490 parts per million is the greenhouse gas concentration today. And in pre-industrial times, it was as much as just about 300 and less than that. So we have to reverse global warming. So that forms a basic objective where you create a model of economic growth from an extractive and an exploitive mode to a restorative firstly, and then a regenerative mode, so that your whole economic system, your social system, your governance model will change accordingly. And that is what this whole youth theory really does, because it tries to kind of, address the whole growth model in a direction that we create a more regenerative society, which is futuristic. And therefore, to do that, as the U theory indicates, in fact, the U direction itself indicates that you have to let go a lot of things which are holding you back currently, and then let in the new things which are emerging from the future. So, therefore, the whole idea is that in case if we have to look for future progress, of course, and where there's no reason why we should not, we have to kind of, create a quick prototype, and then kind of, through process of reiteration and course corrections, we kind of, scale it up once it's up to the mark. In fact, giving up what doesn't work and giving in what is emerging from the future. So I think that's a beautiful model that Manoj and Vivek, in fact, are following from what has been developed primarily at MIT. But I think Manoj and Vivek have added lots and lots of value. And so my whole purpose was actually to be a part of it today and be a listener. But Manoj unnecessarily forced me to speaking. And I'm sorry for the fact that, this whole disturbance actually came up in between.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. So as very well put by Rajiv sir and our friend Navred. So I was looking at that this whole situation has, you can look at it from these three divides: the ecological divide, the social divide, and the spiritual divide. So what is this ecological divide? Human beings are disconnected from nature. That's the source of the ecological divide. Now, how we are disconnected and how it shows up, there are 100 ways we can look at it. Most of us are aware of it, right? That we are disconnected from nature. What we may not be aware is the number below. The number is 1.79. What is 1.79? 1.79 is the number which shows that we are consuming 1.79 times the regenerative capacity of planet Earth. Of course, nature gives us resources and we are free to use the resources, but there is a limit to everything except human stupidity. And we are using 1.79 times the regenerative capacity of planet Earth. But thank goodness, all of us are not as stupid as US. Otherwise, we would be using 5 times the regenerative capacity of planet Earth. So that's the ecological divide. And then the social divide. Social divide is about how human beings are disconnected from each other. And we have been very innovative in dividing ourselves from each other, whether it's religion, caste, creed, country, economics, you name it. We have found so many ways to divide ourselves and differentiate from ourselves and create the silos. And one of the things that we can see, of course, it shows up in 100 ways, but one important way it shows up is in wealth. 1% of the population has more wealth than 50% of the population at the bottom of the pyramid. That is, some 8 people would show up at the top, are showing up as having more than what 3.8 billion people have. And it can go on. And then if you look at spiritual divide, the spiritual divide is about we being disconnected with ourselves. Human beings are disconnected from themselves, from their highest potential, from their highest future possibility. And when human beings are disconnected with themselves, what happens? We live a hollow life. We have no real context for life. And we have then all the reference points of our life are all materialistic, all outside, and all about kind of trying to fill up a bottomless hole, which will never happen. So we live a hollow life, we feel depressed, we have stress, we have anxiety, all the stuff that's happening. And how do you see that? Ultimately, it shows up in a sad number. And that sad number is more people are killing themselves, committing suicide, than are being killed by other people through any source, including terrorism and wars, and also from natural calamities. So more people are killing themselves than are being killed by others and through natural calamities. So these are the 3 divides which are in the background. As we look at our life, as we look at our company, as we look at our objectives, these 3 divides are shaping our world currently. So the question that I have is, how is it showing up around you? How are these 3 divides showing up around you? Is your company adding to this divide, or is your company healing this divide? And if you look at your own objective in life, are you adding into these divides, or are you healing these divides? So that's what we would invite you to reflect upon. And maybe if you want to respond, this is a good time for you to respond. I'm not sure. We were planning to have all of you also get into some breakout rooms and share. So are you guys there? So okay, why don't you raise your hand electronically so that I know you are there and we can put you in the breakout rooms. Okay, some people have raised their hand. Okay, Pradeep, are you there? Vivek, Mittal, Pradeep, are you there? Okay, iPhone. Okay, who's the person who's using iPhone? Can you put your name, please? Okay, so let's continue. So the question is first to start look at how are you either adding to the divide or are you healing to the divide or healing the divides? And then ultimately start looking at, as Rajiv Bhaduria was pointing out, it's not enough to not add to the divide, but we need to be regenerative. We need to start looking at how do we heal these divides. And each one of us has its chance. Each organization has a chance. From how do we have the impact on the ecology, whether it's our products, our services, our travel, whichever ways, our consumption. So there is always an opportunity to look at that. Then looking at social divide, how are we being inclusive? How are we including people? Recently, we were having a conversation with some entrepreneurs who are supporting in rural transformation. And they said, if each village just got a company, say IT company, with 50 jobs, if they started their operations in that in a village, that would transform the economy of the village. So how do you become inclusive? We have to think in the way we do our business. What are the various ways we can become inclusive? And that's how you can contribute into the social divide. Of course, there could be many more ways. We are just kind of triggering some thought process here. And then the spiritual divide is how human beings are connected with themselves. So when we look at our colleagues, our team members, how are we supporting them in healing themselves, in healing their spiritual divide? Because consider each one of us, right, including the person you see in the mirror and people that we stay with, each one of us has this spiritual divide that they are living with. And either we are adding into their spiritual divide or we are helping them heal. So whether it's our family members, whether it's our colleagues, juniors, people across the department. So as leaders and as organizations, we have some role to play with these three divides. Either we are going to add to it by toxic culture or by lack of awareness of what's going on with people around us. Two, we are proactively creating a culture which nourishes people's soul. Like one of the questions that we are dealing with now in our consulting with organizations is, how do you encourage people to bring their soul to office? Most people never bring the soul to office. Not only the employees, even the owners, they don't bring the soul to office. So what would have us bring our soul to office? Right? So that's a question. It's not an answer here. That's a question that we want to share with. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and let's hear from some people. What are you getting here? What thoughts are triggering? What questions you have? Any insights you have? So let's hear from some people. Okay. Navrit, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, 2 years ago in our college, there were two suicides
Right.
that occurred, and after that, the college authorities took a step so that they appointed a psychologist in our college, so that anyone if facing any problems can go there, so that the people who are living away from their homes can have someone they can talk to, so it becomes easier for them to share their feelings, and
Yeah.
hence it is supposed to decrease or prevent anything from happening, but we have to see if such things will cause change or not.
Yeah. That's yes. That's one small step in the right direction to provide support to the students who are going through a lot of stress, right? Which is all the stress that they're living inside of. Right? A lot of students commit suicide around exam times, or if they are in the college for various other reasons. But it's all part of this spiritual divide. And yeah, we as colleges, education institutions, need to not only provide this kind of support, but maybe also look at what is the proactive action that can be taken to heal heal the people, heal the divide, get them connected to their higher self. Right? Thank you very much. Naresh, did you want to say something? Yes, Rajiv sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Manoj. I think you really answered that part, because the question that Navneet raised was very, very important today. Because particularly, see, we are living, somebody rightly said that the current problem of humanity is threefold. Firstly, we have Paleolithic mindsets, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. Now, the issue is that we have created with this technology, with social kind of, media, in fact, particularly those social mediums being kind of, controlling and surveilling our lives. Now, the point is that this technology has shortened our attention span, and why these teen suicides are taking place. The point is that by keeping counselors, we are addressing the symptoms, but not the disease.
Yeah.
The ultimate idea is that how do you really sort out the disease? And the disease has to be addressed because we know the causes. And the cause lies in the shortening of attention span, where these technologies are dehumanizing us. In fact, they are kind of, taking away our instinct to think, because they're forcing us to shorten our attention span, and they're all grabbing for the attention, which is commoditized. So it's commoditization of humans, which is taking place in the market society of today. And the idea is that polarization is emerging, post-truth world with fake news is emerging. And what's also happening is that, which is leading to teen suicides and all, is that whole need for social validation is being celebrated. Now, once you are looking at somebody else to validate you, the point is that your self-worth goes away. The idea is that how do you rediscover the self-worth within yourself? So that this whole need for social validation, why should your life be dependent on a like or a dislike by somebody else? On a fake platform, which I mean, you know how it exists. I mean, there are so many fake accounts. Those likes and dislikes may be coming from fake accounts, with maybe somebody would be driving their agenda and purpose. So that is important, actually. So to address this whole issue of teen suicides and all, I think we have to address it at two levels. Firstly, the symptoms. Of course, you can have counselors, you can have people who can guide people, in fact, and tell them the right thing. But more important is, as you know, Manoj, the very purpose of your talk is that, you remove the disease from the face of the earth, in fact, and you address the root cause, so that you are separating the disease from the symptoms. You are managing the symptoms, but addressing the disease. So that's the real answer, because counselors could just be management of symptoms. But why do you let that happen? So we have to address the needs. We have to create that self-confidence, that self-worth, that self-awareness, and in fact, that emotional intelligence. Because in this age of what I call Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology, one has to be very, very, different in kind of, being selective about what technologies you use, what processes you use, what methods you use. And then therefore, I think that could just kind of, lead to a larger understanding of why these kind of social dilemmas are being posed to us as a society.
Yeah, very, very true, very true. And one of the aspects of theory U that we like is it's built from MIT. So the foundation is always systems thinking. So we are not dealing with, as Raju sir pointed out, we're not dealing with symptoms and just healing the symptoms, but really looking at the system behind it. So whatever is happening, whatever you see in the world, these three divides also, these three divides are not the source, they are the symptoms. The ecological divide, that human beings are disconnected from nature, or the social divide, that human beings are disconnected from each other, or the spiritual divide, we are disconnected from ourselves. If you look below all this, you can start to look for what is the mindset, what is the thought pattern that is driving here. If you ask that question, what is the mindset or the thought pattern that is driving here? Rajesh, you don't have to raise your hand. You're co-leading with me in this conversation. Just jump in as you like. Okay.
Yes.
It's ego.
Raising, I think it got raised earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So if you look at the mindset that we have been kind of getting programmed in, is what we call as egocentric mindset. Right? So the whole game is we're shifting from the earlier, at least Indian context, but I think it was global. We in India used to say this, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole world is my family. And I believe that that was the kind of spirit that most ancient civilizations had. Right? But now the whole context is becoming ego. And what do we mean by ego? Ego is thinking within a boundary. So when I say me, I'm thinking within a boundary. My family, it's a boundary. My community is a boundary. My company, it's a boundary. Within my company, my department, it's a boundary. Most people get married to their department and get divorced to their company. But much more. So we are always thinking and getting pushed by various factors to think within boundaries. That egocentric mindset is contributing towards the spiritual divide, the social divide, and the ecological divide. So that's why as a leader, that's why we said the leadership shift that is required if you want to have this planet continue, if you want to have a habitable society, right, and is to have leaders who bring the shift from the ego mindset, egocentric mindset, to the inclusive. So simple, I would recommend two words, ego. I would recommend the word boundary. So whenever I use the word ego, I am saying thinking within a boundary. And whenever I'm saying eco, what I'm referring to is being inclusive. So I think an year or so back, a little bit more, I was discussing with one of the educationists, and they were talking about all this new development they are bringing in and all that. And I asked them, how much of these inputs are coming from the students? They didn't want to answer. So when we are saying inclusive, it's inclusive of all the stakeholders. Right? Naresh, Malhan, do you want to say something? Your mic is going on and off. Sometimes going on, sometimes off. Is there something that you would like to say, Naresh?
Of course, my apologies. I joined very late. I think what I hear you say is pretty close to Buddhist thought process, that unless you begin to relate yourself to some kind of a larger cause means away from yourself, away from your own, what you are calling as boundary, you would always be guided by, your immediate concerns, realities, etc., etc. Now, it's very, what should I say? There is a way of getting on to how to do that detachment. And I think that's more a spiritual process than a social process, to my mind, at least.
Right. Yeah. And by keeping the spiritual and the social separate, I don't think we are helping humanity. Or for that matter, keeping the spiritual and leadership separate. If you were to call it spiritual, right, and if to keep that separate is actually allowing the harm to continue. Naresh?
Quite possible. Quite. I think you're quite well. You said about it. That this makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. So were you there when we discussed the three divides, that the ecological divide and the social divide and the spiritual divide? Naresh, were you there at the time when we discussed about it? About the three divides?
I missed that part. I missed that part. Anyway, but I relate to it.
Yeah.
Subsequently, okay. I've been able to catch up what you were saying.
Yeah. So ecological divide, just in short, is the human beings being disconnected from nature, and we end up more than the regenerative capacity of planet Earth. And the social divide is about how, as human beings, we disconnect from each other under various excuses, whether the excuse is religion or caste or creed or gender or education or country or money or whatever. And of course, one of the big ways it is showing up is in the resources being limited, as in terms of resources being, how would I say, loaded in one area, like 1% of the population has more wealth than the 50%. Sorry, 1%. Yeah, 1% of the population has more wealth than the 50% at the bottom, and that kind of inequality is not sustainable. So that's one side of the whole thing. And the spiritual divide we talked about is how human beings are disconnected from their own higher self, and that gives a certain kind of stress and anxiety and different kinds of addictions, including the addictions for people's approval, right? And the materialistic addictions and all that. So that's kind of in the background. So whatever leadership we are looking at, whatever organizations we are trying to build, we are building inside of this environment. And we have a choice. I think we have three choices. One is we can continue to add to this divide. Second is we can continue to be ignorant about these divides. Or third is we have a choice to see what we can contribute in healing these divides. And as leaders, as kind of educated people who have a certain awareness of things, it might be useful that we all start channelizing, not just ourselves, but people around us, wherever we can influence, to be aware of these three divides and to see what we can contribute in these three divides, in healing these three divides. So that's one part of the conversation that we are having, which is ego to eco as a leadership shift. Now, the other side of the conversation, we're going to have three parts of the conversation. One is the social part, one is the marketplace piece, and one is the within the organization. So we talked about the social part so far. Now let's look at within the, from the context of the market. So how does this ego thinking show up in the market? Show up in the way company deals with the customers, so the way company operates in the out in the world.
Yes, sir. Sir, usually it is seen that if there is a perfect competition, then the companies have to sell in prices that they want to sell. But as the company gains more power, the monopoly establishes and the value of customer decreases. Along with that, the employees, the power of a company also increases, and the ways it can interfere with the government are endless then, because it can help the government to fund it and make the laws that benefit that organization, which leads to further social divide. And it can also have tax breaks, etc., which leads to frauds and further division between people and other.
Brilliant, Navrit, brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that. Hey, Vivek Mittal, welcome. You want to share something, Vivek? How does this ego thinking, me, myself, right, in various forms, how does this show up in leadership and in organizational behavior in the world? So Navrit pointed out one dimension, which is as they get more and more power in the market, more and more market share, their customer has less value, and of course they start lobbying, they start influencing the policies and the economical structures of the industry to favor themselves, right? So that's one part, definitely. Thank you very much, Navrit. And anybody else, how do you see this ego thinking showing up in the marketplace? Okay, Naresh, safe travels. Take care. So the other ways we can see, like, see, there are a lot of big companies, or there were a lot of big companies who are no more there, right? From the Nokias and Blackberries of the world to every industry has their own set of companies who at one time had great market share, and are not there anymore, or they are no more matched to who they were earlier. That's also sometimes connected with ego thinking. Like, oh, I know, or we know what's good for the customer, so we don't have to listen to them, right? Like Ford famously said, customers can have any color they want till the time it is black. Now, we don't know in what context he said it or whether he really said it or not, but there are times when companies get so seduced by their own technology, or so seduced by the profits that they are getting from the current technology, that they ignore the new technologies coming in, the new dynamics coming in, even though those new technologies may be coming from their own company sources, like Xerox and Kodak and others, where their own people had answers to what's coming new. They were part of the team which was bringing in the new technologies, but the management was stuck. Oh, we know we are like, this money that we're getting from our current business model, that's great. There is nothing we want to even touch. And after some time, it becomes too late. So that's another part of ego thinking that shows up, where we are not learning from the world outside of our periphery, or outside of our limited kind of comfort zone, if you were to say that, right? So let's see, what else? Raju sir, you want to point out some other ways how companies have their ego showing up in their thinking, in the way they play in the market?
Yeah, I think what's important, very well put by you actually, Manoj. The whole idea is that, look at just two ways of looking at life. What we are currently looking when we look with a egocentric mindset, so that's mine and thine, which means we are kind of, trying to have a piece of cake, and supposing it's shared by five, there are 5 divides.
Yeah.
And so each one of us can go bigger only at the expense of each other.
Right.
There is another way of looking at egocentric way in which you increase the size of the cake. Everybody has a larger size, in fact, and through the collaborative process rather than, competing and cutting through and exploiting and extracting more. So I think that's a nice way to understand the implications of what Manoj is talking about in sense of an egocentric approach. When you're talking at ego, it's like you're limiting yourself. When you're looking at ecocentric, you are going beyond horizons. Horizons don't have boundaries. So you can then involve everybody, have a larger scalable learning process rather than a scalable efficiency process, which we have got stuck with during industrial age times. So rather than just looking at efficiencies through competition, you are looking at scalability through mutual learning, mutual collaboration, mutual help, and increasing the size of the cake, which we can only do not by just self-centric approach, but by an enlightened, self-interest, which kind of, involves all the stakeholders around the entire ecosystem, the well-balanced, growth, which would really be a development rather than a mere, mechanical growth as we have had so far.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of probably sets a kind of an understanding that, from an egocentric to an ecocentric, it's a total different worldview altogether, because you move from competition to collaboration. All your, assumptions around excessive, Lean Sigma, Six Sigma, which are creating efficiencies, they're fine. They have a role, but don't get burdened by them. We can get the benefit of this all, but we have to kind of, expand the compass of our horizons and, in fact, go beyond the confines of the limited boundaries that we create for ourselves. Thank you.
Very true. I was just reading recently that the current economic model inside of which we are thinking, there's not much possibility there. We have to reorient the way we think economics. And for that, you to understand the problem is not starting in the boardroom. The problem is starting in the college where we learn economics and where we learn management. Because from that time, we have been kind of getting indoctrinated into this whole world of competition, as if competition is the only way of life. And unfortunately, if you look at it, actually has gone so much in our blood that even from junior KG onwards, we are kind of somewhere, parents and teachers, we are telling students to compete, to get better marks, to get better performance in the race. It's all compete. And we are taking away the fun and joy of education and learning. And the same people, the child grows up and goes into higher school and colleges. And by the time they are getting into higher education, they have lost the whole context of why they are learning. And the whole context of why they are learning has become to get admission and then to get marks and then to get some job. And where is learning there? So we, at one level, if you look at from economics and management, we need to rethink our higher education. But at other level, I think we need to also rethink our basic education and also our parenting. Because we are bringing in this whole ego mindset everywhere. And it comes...
and you're right, Manoj. In fact, the whole idea around the fact that you teach a child not to copy, say, for example, from somebody else. If they are cooperating, it's considered cheating in schools. But when they come to offices, you ask them to collaborate and work as teams. How can they work with the kind of a mindset which they've never taught?
Yeah.
In a mindset which they were supposed to kind of, say that these are open, business models, occasions. These are all, free kind of, like Hyperloop, for example. I mean, Elon Musk says that this is like an open code source.
Yeah.
Now, the wisdom today doesn't reside in one single mind. And therefore, this whole context of ecocentricity, where you concerned about all the stakeholders, because we are collectively wiser than individually we are.
Yeah.
Much more. So the point is that there's a lot of reason for us to have a stakeholder mindset, multi-stakeholder mindset, rather than a mere old shareholder, minuscule, where what Manoj says, 6 people on earth control 50% of the world GDP. So I think that's very relevant in the context of today. If we have to regenerate, we have to restore, first of all, the lost glory, and then we have to regenerate. I think this whole mindset has to come into application. Thank you.
I agree with both of you, but I would like to also update you that in our college, we there are new subjects introduced, and we are taught about things like human values. We are taught about CSR, corporate social responsibility, and other things like in economy, we are also taught about sustainable development. And
Yeah.
moreover, the other aspects are also there, like
Very good. Very good.
morals, and these are introduced in this, and our education system is improving.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Yes, that's good news, and that is really kind of warming our heart that at least some colleges and some students have started taking it seriously. That it's not just about it's there in the syllabus, but it's being taken seriously. So
Yes.
that's a very good thing, and a lot more has to happen. But yeah, that's the step in the right direction. Right? And so the whole point was that how as leaders and how as organizations can we play in the market, can we play in the outside world in a way that we heal these divides, right? Instead of adding to these divides of ecological divide and the social divide and the spiritual divide, the question that has to come up everywhere, every decision, as whether it's the management colleges, how they kind of do their own business. Recently, I was in Bangalore and I was told that some engineering college has increased their capitation fee to 1 crore rupees. Another has increased it to 36 lakh rupees. Right? Now, definitely, it says something, right? Now, we don't need to go into that. Somebody from my phone, you're not able to, you got no audio, not able to hear us. May I request you to check your sound system, and if there is a if that doesn't work, can you log out and log in? Mostly, if it's a Zoom problem, it should get sorted out. Oh, so somebody who's using iPhone, if you can chat in what is the challenge, then we'll see how we can support you. And otherwise, just try logging out and logging in. Mostly, the Zoom issues get sorted out in that. Thank you very much. Now,
So as we know that the companies these days have very much power in their hands, so they can use that power in the development of people. The concept of corporate social responsibility says that the companies can help bridge social gaps by inclusive hiring, by funding education in the form of to give them tax breaks. They can also have they can also improve their brand image by doing so. We know about Tata, that is very good example of sustainable and inclusive growth. And the social divide can be tackled by inclusive hiring, and the divide between like healthcare, if people who are not able to afford healthcare can be provided free health camps, etc. And the other thing that you talked about is the what does the high fees of engineering college signifies. Actually, it signifies that previously we all collectively agreed that education is a basic human right, but as the fees is so much high, that it is direct message to students that education is a privilege to the rich only. So that is a bad message, because it gives them impression that it is difficult to climb the socio-economic ladder, and this leads to the division between rich and poor and the increasing gap.
True. Very well. Thank you very much. Hey, which college are you from? You seem to be in the right college.
From CGC Landra, and my fees is 2 lakh for full course.
Okay, got that. Good. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Anybody else you want to say something?
Pan.
What are you getting so far in this conversation?
Where is Pan?
Yes, somebody who's if you're using the iPhone, can you put your name there instead of the iPhone? And if you want to say something, please unmute and speak. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we looked at how the organizations, how they show up in their eco-centric mindset in various ways, like competing and sometimes just eating out the other players and dominating. And that's what happens in many industries. There are only 2 or 3 companies left. Everybody else gets kind of, either they die or they get eaten out uh, under mergers and this acquisition. And ultimately, when the monopoly comes in, then as Navrit pointed out, customer has minimum value. So these are various ways, and we are of course not able to cover all the aspects, but we can start seeing how company actions and of course the other side of it is also government actions and other players. We are not only blaming the company, but companies are definitely playing a big role in all this, right? And the social aspect in terms of the healthcare and education, right? And how that is also not the kind of quality that's required and the kind of reach that is required, that's not being available. That adds to all these divides. And then we all individuals, especially when we are in our role as a parent, we are also kind of contributing into this spiritual divide, social divide, and the way we are grooming people. Big role for educationists. I think educationists can play a big role in this, but they have to also see that they are right now becoming victims of the system. They can't afford to be victims of the system, or the world cannot afford the educationists becoming the victims of the system. And we need the educationists to see the system and transform those systems. And that's one of the reasons why we have, over and above our consulting for organizations, we have been working with education institutions, both schools, K-12 schools, as well as the higher education. So, because education, I think, needs to play a big role in this, in transforming the paradigm of the society. So that's one side of it. And now we want to shift to our focus to what is happening inside the organization. Right? So we looked at outside, and before that we looked at the general social level, and now we want to shift to what's happening inside the organization. When I say inside, is how conversations happen. What is the quality of communication that's happening? How do we see each other? How do we see employees, and how do employees see each other? And how do the managers and the leaders see the employees? And how is, in all that internal atmosphere, how is ego thinking influencing the internal atmosphere? So I'm going to invite Rajiv Vaduria again, because he spent some 30 years in the HR field and has seen organizations inside out. So sir, would you like to jump in and share how ego thinking shows up inside the organization?
Yeah, Manoj, I think I'm sorry for the video right now, because I'm actually limited by the bandwidth where I am.
No problem.
The idea is that the whole context in which, growth is measured in terms of quarter-on-quarter growth and shareholder profit being the one single determinant of success, and the financial equity being the only determinant of success. And therefore, that's the driver, because whatever you measure and the way you measure will determine how it gets done. So that is the limitation of how the corporates in the 19th and 20th century, that whole industrial age mindset, where you got to create more and more efficiencies. And you had evolved technologies which were very suitable then, because these technologies increase your capacity to exploit and extract more from nature, from resources, from whatever you have as sources of production. Now, the point is that it has brought us to an unsustainable existing level. It's created an existential crisis. So now the question would obviously be, why should I change something that has brought me there? Because it will not take you where you want to go. Because this is unsustainable, and forget about your financial equity, the whole existential crisis is there. You have to collectively solve it. So under that compulsion, at least, people will have to rethink the way they kind of, generate their financial equity. Now, the point is that in a democratized, decentralized environment, diffuse decision-making, where inclusiveness, participation is the right way to kind of, extract the wisdom and adapt or scale up the learnability of people in an age of innovation and design thinking and creating early prototypes and then scaling it up fast. In that context, sharing, the whole circularity of knowledge, of resources becomes very relevant. And therefore, what you said, Manoj, is that, why the corporates have done it, there was a reason. And that was celebrated. That kind of success was celebrated. Now, I say today that financial equity is not the sole purpose of an organization. The whole purpose of organization is probably to be redefined. And as Nareshji said, that those Buddhist principles, that spiritual divide that has brought us here, we have to think that maximizing production and consumption is not the only kind of, indication of success. We probably have to optimize production today to the needs of the actual needs, rather than 1.8 times the kind of, capacity of Earth to produce that much. Yeah. To optimize production, optimize consumption, and maximizing human well-being or shareholder well-being, and having an ecological and a larger horizonless, that connect from going up from ego to eco space, involving everybody, removing the boundaries, removing your self-limiting belief systems, and kind of, getting into a space where social equity and emotional equity, social equity of the society or stakeholder and the emotional equity of the employees will then form the basis to continue your financial equity. So we have to create, therefore, and there is a possibility with this godlike technology that we can create a prospect where this whole idea around doing good and still making profits becomes relevant. And there are a lot of companies today where talk about conscious capitalism, which is being practiced by many companies, including someone big as Salesforce. Now, Salesforce could be a very commercially driven organization, but that Hawaiian culture, that social consciousness, that conscious capitalist urge to kind of create participation, inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion as the basis of decision making, as a basis of defining their organizations, I think that is the way forward. So what the corporates have done, in fact, and as Manoj said, Manoj and I had been also part of some very ruthlessly governed corporates where a financial motive was probably the only motive of existence. But then it has not even served their purpose then. Yeah. Or even if we say that we have to now get the benefit of it, don't get burdened by it anymore. There's a change time, there is a change context in which different things will work. What has taken you here will not take you where we want to go. So I think that is the larger context of this whole space of ecocentricity being the determinant or the principal driver of our behavior, as a principal cause of measuring success. In fact, where it becomes more and more relevant. And I think that's, we work more and more on it, increasing the size of the cake, as I said. That should be the objective, without harming the, creative capacity of Mother Earth itself. And the whole resource concept. And fortunately, the good news is that it's possible today, because technology of renewable sources of energy, when defossilization of Earth by compulsion has to take place, because whenever you're dealing with fossil fuel, it probably injured in us an idea around scarcity, because there was limited resource. Now, when you're dealing with the solar system being the basis of your energy source, and wind and geothermal and storage capacity of batteries probably can run a system independent of fossil fuel, I think that is going to be the game changer, where abundance will come. So it automatically, scarcity gets replaced with abundant mindset. And therefore, this whole cause of ecocentricity becomes not only as an idea, but as a possibility also. So that I think connects the dot from egocentric to ecocentricity.
Perfect, sir. I was actually also hoping that you would address the toxic culture that you have seen in many organizations and heard it.
Oh, yes,
and,
yes,
and
yes,
how,
yes.
how that how you can connect the toxic culture to the ego thinking, the shift in culture to the ego thinking. If you want to say something about that.
Yeah. That's very true, because toxicity is brought in by excessive competitive need. That I can grow big only at the cost of the other. Right. Like there is a given size of the pie of the cake, there is a limited resource. So either you it's a zero, what they call, it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
If I gain, A gains, then B loses. And therefore, this toxicity, if the sales department wins, then probably the production will lose. In a production, they can't just think of a fact that, when you serve the customer on time and one time in full, then both the production and the sales team can gain together. Yeah. That is the toxicity actually, Manoj, hinders that kind of thinking of collaboration. It creates by design a process where killing each other is the only way to survive.
Mm. Yeah.
So that is basically been the norm, in fact, earlier, that, you achieve your goals, but then, if sub-systemic, as somebody rightly says, sub-systemic maximization will lead to systemic optimization. That means that the goal at the universal level and local levels, if they are contradicting themselves, so that's very difficult to do. But the point is that is what actually is the answer. I mean, or maybe the result of the toxicity that is created, where by design you are supposed to be doing exactly what is, as you rightly said, that, you stay married to your family, but then get divorced from the larger context of your organization or society at large.
Yes.
So I think that's the toxicity doing it. What it is supposed to do, it creates more and more toxicity, and there's overfill of toxicity. Then nobody kind of gains over there. But then probably it becomes too late for us to realize that. Yep. So it's time for us to realize that toxicity will engender more and more toxicity. So you can get married to the closer context of whichever you are working at, but then never get divorced from the larger context. Keep that in mind, and it's a happy balance or sense of connect. Therefore, non-locality, non-separation, which are even the ideas propagated by quantum computing today. That whole idea of superpositioning, whole idea of non-locality and non-separation, where they talk about. I think that actually fundamentally addresses this issue of the fact that staying connected is the only way to go together.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So as we come to close for this today's session, the whole intention here was that all of us start being more alert, more aware that every action that we take, every conversation that we do, every decision that we take could be affecting either the ecological divide, the social divide, and the spiritual divide. And especially the spiritual divide, because we are always working with people. So whether we are working with our children or our spouse or the maid at home or the juniors in the office or the idiots in other departments, right? Or the customer or the vendors so everywhere we are influencing. And either, as they used to say, either we are going to be part of the problem or we are going to be part of the solution. So I think I'm inviting that we take on, not only for ourselves, also spreading around ourselves wherever possible to bring in the awareness of these three divides, and either we are healing those divides or we are ignorant of those divides or we are actually adding to those divides. And that's the foundation for not only being a good citizen, I would say, of the planet, but also a good corporate citizen. And hopefully, as the awareness of the human society increases, you might actually notice that is the expected norm. That would be expected from you as a leader. That would be expected from you as an organization. that you are aware and you are healing the three divides. And we don't want to wait for some rules, laws to come which say you have to do CSR or we have to do this. But it's more that we do it naturally inside of uh, our own consciousness shift. So as emerging futures, we call ourselves emerging future, and I and Vivek and Fadi, we are operating from four countries, India, UK, Philippines, and Thailand. And we do a lot of work with organizations. So we have these three big intentions, I would say. First is to shift the awareness from egocentric to ecocentric. The second is, let me also put it on the screen so that as I generate it, you can maybe also have a glance at it. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. So give me 1 second. Okay, so this is what I want to share with you. So, so what's our intention? What are we trying to do here is, as we work with individuals, as we work with leaders, organizations, businesses, government, otherwise. So these are the three games that we have. First, to shift the awareness from egocentric to ecocentric. Second is to shift the awareness from individual centric to system centric. Most of the times we are being programmed to see individuals. Oh, this person is a great person, this person is a good person, this person is a competent person, this person is blah, 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 blah. But we're not kind of being trained to see that how is the system at play, which is causing people to show up the way they show up. So I like to say that for most of us, the system is a blind spot. We only see people. So here we are saying to shift the awareness from individual centric to system centric, so that people can see the systems that are at play causing the current reality. The systems could be legal systems, the systems could be social systems, the systems could be of combination of various policies, various ways of living, all that combined, right? So, and the third one, so first one is to shift the awareness from egocentric to ecocentric. Second, to shift the awareness from individual centric to system centric, so that people can see the systems that are at play causing the current reality. And third, through awareness-based collective action, bring a change in the systems so that the system can take care of all the stakeholders and create equitable results for all. So through awareness-based collective action, bring change in the system. One of the tools that we use in this is called multi-stakeholder dialogue. So through awareness-based collective action, bring change in the systems such that the system can take care of all the stakeholders, including those stakeholders who are marginalized, who don't have enough voice in the system, right? Who cannot do lobbying, right? Like the children in the school, right? The whole education system is meant for them, except they have no voice in it, right? Or the patient in the healthcare system, or the citizen in the normal citizen, individual citizen in the whole governance of the state or the country. How do you actually bring all those stakeholders, included in the way the society is run, right? So that's what we are looking at in multiple angles. Through awareness-based collective action, bring change in the systems such that the system can take care of all the stakeholders and create equitable, fair results for all. So that's our intention. And we thought we would be in communication with all of you and share. Thank you very much for participating with us. And if you would like to connect with us further and see how we could support you, your leadership, or your organization, or you want to collaborate with us for something else in the society, most welcome. So I'm going to put my contact details, and you can WhatsApp me. Vivek Chopra, can you please do the same? Put in your contact details. So, okay, great. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate you spending your time on a Saturday evening with us. And special thanks, Rajiv sir and Navrit, for your participation and actually leadership, co-creating this event with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, it was great to be in meeting.
Recording stopped.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.